All right, it's 4 o'clock and it's the time for Burlington English 4th Saturday 4 p.m. webinar. And here we are back with you on an interesting topic. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all. I'm joining this webinar from super hot June of Delhi. Please put it in the chat, the cities from where you have joined the webinar. We would love to know the cities that are getting represented, those who are gaining, those who are getting benefits out of these webinars. So it would be lovely to know from where you are joining. Uh, just one housekeeping announcement. All your questions, please put it in the Q&A section. And for any interaction, please put your comments on the chat. Unfortunately, we will not be able to pass on the mic to anyone because we have thousands of teachers joining us for this webinar, and this webinar is only for 60 minutes. But we will for sure take your questions at the end of the webinar. So do put in your questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom platform. So I welcome you all to our exciting webinar on story-based pedagogy, where we will explore the power of storytelling in education. We all love stories, isn't it? So get ready to be inspired and equipped with new tools of storytelling to bring your teaching to life. Yeah, so I welcome Dr. Swati Popat Vats, who needs no introduction for this webinar. So, ma'am, all of us are now eager to get started with this webinar. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Leena, and thank you, Burlington, for having these webinars every month. And I was just watching the ticker of participants, which is keeping on going up. It's gone above 800 right now. And that it makes me feel good because otherwise, storytelling in our country is considered a pastime and has no place in education, or it is only considered something that we do for pre-primary children. But when I was seeing the chat box, I saw principals have also joined in, and I must congratulate all these people who have joined because they understand the value of story pedagogy. And that's what our topic for the day is. Lena once again is going to help me with my PowerPoint slides. My computer refuses to share slides. So thank you, Lena, for doing that once more. And let's begin today's workshop. I like the topic that Burlington has given today's webinar. It's called The Power of Storytelling and How Stories Are a Full Brain Workout. If you will go on YouTube and you will type Stories Full Brain Workout, you will also get one of my TED Talks on the same topic. So, after this webinar, if you want to extend your learning, you can do that. Let's go to the next slide. For me, stories have always been my go to tool whenever I teach. When I did my B.Ed in English and History, I did all my lessons through storytelling, even for ninth and 10th standard. And that made me understand that the power of storytelling is not just limited to the early years. This is a very important slide. When we say something is important in education, we usually want to know how we should do it, what we should do when we are doing it, but we rarely ask the question why we should do it. So, in today's workshop, we are also going to talk about the how, the what, and the why. And that why is very important for teachers and educators because you need to convince parents about why you are doing what you are doing and how you are doing in the classroom. Let's go to the next slide. It is very important also for us to understand stories in India. We've all heard about the Panchatantra, right? Do you know who wrote it? Write it in the chat box if you know who wrote it. It was written by an educator called Vishnu Sarma. And why was it written? Not many of us know why was it written. It was written because a king had five sons who were extremely disruptive. They wouldn't want to study, they didn't want to learn about how to run the kingdom, and they were extremely, badly behaved, didn't know how to talk to people, etc. So the king appointed this Pandit, Vishnu Sarma, to educate his princes. and Vishnu Sarma chose the story pedagogy. And all the teachings that he did to these children were through stories. And this compilation of stories is called the Panchatantra. So here we have, right in such early times, proof that stories can help educate children for life. Let's go to the next slide. Let us now understand that India is a land of storytelling. And in India, we don't just treat stories in books. We don't just say, okay, story books. Our art forms also have stories. Look at these pictures that I have given you. Patta Chitra, it's a traditional folk art, which means it is actually a story done through a painting. Carvards are also painted boxes in which stories emerge. The column drawings that are done in the south of India also signify stories. So when we think about bringing the story pedagogy in the classroom, bring it in all forms, not only the storybook, bring it in the form of art also. Let's see the next slide. Let's understand that when we talk about Indian art forms, and I spoke about the carved paintings, look at the three pictures I've put in front of you on the screen. And you will notice that the carved paintings were originally done to tell the stories of God. But now, in today's time, they are also told to teach about things like Swachha Bharat, or how should you educate children. So, it is very, very important for us to understand that if you look around you, there are stories everywhere. And if you actually understand it, you will think, why do I watch movies? Why are OTT platforms so famous? They all have stories. So stories appeal to all of us. But we think stories are a time pass for children. Let's see the next slide. Let us understand a story. Let me tell you a story because I love to tell stories, I love to hear stories. So let me tell you a story. This is a story of an old woman, a very spunky old woman who lived in the jungle. Okay, let's call her Dadi. And Dadi was very content living in the jungle because she hated the pollution of cities. She was very happy with the greenery in the jungle. So one day she decided to go and visit her daughter who lived in the city. So Dadi went walking into the jungle and suddenly she heard, "Row." And she looked around and she saw a tiger. And the tiger said, "Dadi, kidhar ja rahi hai? Where are you going? I am going to eat you." And Dadi very bravely looked at the tiger and said, I am so old and frail. Why do you want to eat me now? Let me go to my daughter's house. Let me eat, get healthy, and then you eat me. So the tiger thought, sounds good. So he said, okay, go. So Dadi went on walking in the jungle, and suddenly she heard, and she looked around, and there was this huge bear. Mm. Dadi got a little scared, but she swallowed, took a deep breath, and then she looked at the bear. And the bear said, Daddy, I'm going to eat you. And Dadi looked at the bear, and what did she say? I am so old and frail. Why do you want to eat me? Let me go to my daughter's house, eat and become healthy, and then you eat me. And the bear thought about it and said, okay. Now, Dadi quickly went to her daughter's house. She stayed there for a month. She ate well. She didn't have to do any work. So she became nice and healthy. And then she told her daughter, get me a empty water drum. So the daughter thought, what is she going to do with an empty water drum? So the daughter brought her Dadi sat inside the drum, poked some holes so she could breathe, and then she sealed the drum and told her daughter, give a push on the road. And the drum went dum 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 dum. And the bear saw the drum coming and stopped it. And the bear started sniffing. And he said, Dadi, are you in there? And Dadi said, Kiski dadi, kiska kam, chal bambutya apne gam. And she kicked the drum from inside, and the drum started rolling, and the bear got scared and went away. Dum, 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 the drum went, and now the tiger stopped it. And what do you think the tiger did? He also sniffed it. And then he also asked, Daddy, are you in there? And Dadi said, Kiski dadi kiska kam chal bambutya apne gaon. And she pushed the drum from inside, and the drum went dum 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 dum. And the tiger got scared and walked away. Dadi reached her house. She came out of the drum and she was very happy. Now let's see the next slide. Now I want you to understand, did you see any of these expressions during the story? Because stories are all about expressions. If you don't make expressions, if you don't use voice modulation, then it's not a story, it's a politician's speech. So remember this in the classroom. You can't stand like this and say, once upon a time there was a little girl and she lived. You can't do that. You will have to have your expressions, you will have to have your voice modulation, and you should be as excited about the story as you want the children to be. So, very important, work on that. Let's see the next slide. Why stories? Everybody says, why stories? Well, so many benefits of stories. Look at the screen in front of you. Language and communication. You can pass on cultural understanding, gender roles, and identity. If you notice in the story that I told you, I did not use the words thin and fat. I said frail and healthy. I did not use the word. So I did not do any body shaming. So you have to be very careful, because through stories, children understand words, biases, and so much more. I told you a story without pictures, but I painted an image in your mind that there is a jungle, there is a tiger, there is a bear. Each one of you was able to visualize it differently. And that is the power of storytelling. Let's see the next slide. Many people tell me, I don't know how to tell a story. I need a storybook. Well, all of you need to become storytellers. Actually, all of us are storytellers when we want to make excuses. When we want to take a chutti because it's a match, we say we gave a nice story to the boss. So we are storytellers, but we just don't know how to make real stories. So all you need for stories is an object and a feeling. So just take any object around you, okay, and give a feeling to what you are going to talk about. So an object can be a character or an item. Why a feeling? Well, feelings give a direction to a story. It makes the story move on, and human beings relate to emotions. So when there are emotions of lonely, happy, then everybody gets hooked onto the story. So now look at these visuals in front of you. Let's make a story out of this. Each one of you can make it. So there was a bear, and the bear was feeling very bored, and suddenly the bear found a boat, and the bear picked up the boat and started playing with the boat. But the boat was too small. But yet the bear was feeling happy that I found the boat. Suddenly a mouse came. Click, 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 click. And he told the bear, that's my boat. And the bear said, no, it's my boat. And the rat said, "No, it's my boat." And both of them were very angry. Both of them started fighting. When suddenly the rat saw a cake and said, "Okay, keep the boat, I'll keep the cake." Now, suddenly the bear said, "No, now I want the cake." So you saw simple four pictures and you made up a story. That's what children want. Children are now interested to know what will happen. Bear, rat, what will happen? Who will get the cake? So just take an object, just take a character, give it a feeling, and your story is ready. Very important, there is a storyteller in all of us. Let's go to the next slide. Please understand voice modulation. It's very important as a teacher. Even if when you're not telling a story, you need to understand the pitch of your voice. When you are talking in the classroom, vary the pitch of your voice. Sometimes be a little louder, not shrill, louder. Sometimes be a little softer, and sometimes be so soft that children actually have to pause what they are doing to want to listen to you. Very important. That's voice modulation. And in a story, learn two voices. Talk like a bird, "Hello, everybody," and talk like a lion, "How are you?" Two variations of voice modulation. If you can just do these two, become a bird and become a lion, you have learned voice modulation. That's all you need to tell a good story which is engaging. Let's see the next slide. Now, many people ask me, what is more important, storytelling or story reading? Now, let's understand the difference between both. The difference in storytelling is I may have a story book in front of me and I may just show the pictures to the children but tell the story in my own words with voice modulation. Or I may not have a storybook and I'm telling children a story. Story reading is you are holding the book in such a way that children can see the illustrations and the written part. And you are now reading the story word to word. You're not adding anything of your own. Both are important, but they have to be used age appropriately. Very young children, which means 3 and 4 year olds, are more hooked to storytelling. But by the age of 4, also expose them to story reading so that they understand that words also can tell a story, not only pictures. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I told you, remember, that stories are a full brain workout. Not many educators are able to explain to parents the importance of stories. Use this visual next time you want to explain to a parent why you are using stories. And remember the Dadi story which I told you? Do you know who wrote that story? Gijubhai Badheka. And Gijubhai Badheka is the father of story pedagogy. Read his book Divya Swapna, and you will realize that this man wrote about a teacher who used stories even in fifth grade and sixth grade classrooms. So it is very important to understand you may teach any class, any grade, but if you use stories, you will engage children faster and they will remember things faster. Now, look at this, and I'm going to tell you about each one of them. Let's go to the next slide. When a child listens to a story, the whole brain is engaged. So there is an area, language processing area called the Wernicke's area and the Broca's area. That becomes completely engaged when your child is listening to a story. There is a default mode network. So which means when you daydream, which means when you get distracted, it's your default mode network which brings you back. And stories engage your default mode network, which means they don't allow you to get distracted. Let's go to the next slide. Reward and anticipation. There is a dopamine system in our body, which means the oozing of the happy chemical. And that comes out more when children are listening to a story. Remember, when you watch good content, why do you think reels are so famous nowadays? Reels make you feel good after watching them. That means when you feel good, the dopamine has been released in your brain. And stories do that. Stories make a child feel, wow, connections. Wow, I can relate to the character. Wow, something is going to happen now. Ah, something happened just like I thought. So the dopamine gets released when you are listening to a story. And there is a complete sensory explosion in the brain when listening to stories, because words, remember, I told you the story without pictures. I painted an image in your mind with my words. So every part of the brain participated in viewing that image. Let's see the next slide. Emotional roller coaster. Your limbic system loves this emotion roller coaster. There is anger in a story, there is happiness in a story, there is suspense in a story. So many emotions all boiled up together. But every story at the end always has a happy or a satisfactory ending. And that is wonderful for the emotion center of our brain. Mirroring and empathy. You will notice that when you listen to a story, you start empathizing with certain characters in the story. And when something good happens to that character, you feel validated. Let's see the next slide. It's also very, very important for us to understand that now all this is happening in the brain when you are listening to a story. And that's why I said stories are a full brain workout. Just like we give our physical body a workout, we need to give our brain a workout. And the best way for the brain to work out is to listen to stories, is to watch stories. And now you will understand why most of us are addicted to reels, because we are getting our kick, our full brain workout, when we watch these interesting reels. Now, we all have a thinking brain. This is called our prefrontal cortex, or the thinking brain, or the executive function brain. Because if you want to be intelligent, it is this part of the brain. So all your thinking, your focus, your logic, your analysis, everything happens here, this part of the brain. Now, to become a good student or an intelligent student, you need this brain. So, what are the functions of this part of the brain? Focus and self control, perspective taking, communication, cognitive flexibility, ability to defer gratification, estimating time, working memory, inhibition. What are all these? Let's see in the next slide. Now, why do you need this first? Focus and self control. If you're going to do reading and writing with children, of course, they will need focus and self control, right? Perspective taking. Remember, we say, think how you will feel if you get hit like this, or if somebody pushes you like this. Perspective taking means you start developing empathy. Manners and social development are linked to perspective taking. Communication, all of us know, it's all about language, it's all about social development. Cognitive flexibility, very much required in schools. Think about it. You have 30-minute periods, and then the bell rings. I was doing maths. Now the bell rings, and my brain has to shift to English because English is the next period. That's called cognitive flexibility. When your brain is able to switch from one task to the other task, that happens in stories. Ability to defer gratification. I want to eat, I want to go to the bathroom, but I have to listen to this part of the story. That's called the ability to defer my needs or my gratification. And estimating time. You will give a worksheet to a child and you will say you have to complete this in 20 minutes. Storytelling helps us have a sense of time estimation. Let's see the next slide. Let's understand this and how it happens in a story, because Gijubhai Badheka used to do this with stories. What he used to do was he used to tell the story once to the students, and then he will retell the story by changing a few facts. So, for example, I told you the Dadi story. Now I can retell you the story, and instead of the tiger coming first, I will put the bear coming first. And then I will ask you at the end of the story, were there any changes? Or while telling the story, the children only will say, no, 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 in the story, this happened first. That tells you that children have focus and self control because they were listening to every aspect of your story. Perspective taking. Children identify with the emotions of every character. They start feeling like the character, and that develops empathy in children. Communication. Stories build your language. Tell children stories in different languages also. It's fun. There are Google apps which help children hear different stories. Or, like, I like to watch films nowadays in different languages. There are subtitles available. But even the sound of the language helps you in so many ways. The ability to switch from one situation to the other. Stories help you do that. Cognitive flexibility. Just now, the characters were all sad. Now, suddenly, they saw a rainbow and they all became happy. Or just now, Dadi was in the jungle and now she is at her daughter's house. You shifted your perspective. Estimation of time. Gijubhai would tell the children that here's the clock, and now when the clock's hand reaches here, I will have to stop the story. And children used to be able to tell that, please now hurry up, 5 minutes only are left. Please tell us what happened next in the story. The ability to defer gratification. I want to know the end of the story, but I can't. I will wait for the whole story to develop even though I want to know what's at the end. Remember, it happens to us when we reach a novel, we read a novel or we watch a movie. We want to know, did they meet? Did they end properly? So your gratification is you want to know about that. But stories help you build that patience to sit and wait till the end. And working memory and inhibition. Working memory means, am I able to hold facts? Am I able to understand what came before, what came after? And that's exactly what stories do. When you retell a story, a child remembers what had happened, what had she said. Remember, I used a song which was repeated every time. I said, Chal Bambutya apne gaon, kiski doli, kiska gaon. So that repetition helps children understand how to remember that song because I put it in a rhythm. So it is very, very important to understand that when you use stories as a full brain workout, it's not just a story, it's actually becoming a story pedagogy. Let's go to the next slide. Now, different ways to do a story. These are called story strategies. You can use this game called Bus Stop, where each child is given a puppet, and the teacher will hold a bus puppet in her hand, and the bus will start moving. First, the bus is with me, the teacher, so I will start a story. Okay. Now, the bus will go to another child, and that child will have to add to the story based on the puppet that the child has in his or her hand. So 5-year olds, 6-year olds, 12-year olds, 15-year olds love this activity because A, you are using your imagination, B, you are using your focus and self control. You have to wait, and you are listening to each and every one because you want to know by the time it reaches you, what am I going to add to it? So it's an excellent collaborative, imaginative, communicative activity that helps us use stories but develop children's thinking and language skills. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see the another strategy. The other strategy is called puppet plays. Now, here I may tell the story like this Dadi story, which I said, and I will either give a mask or a puppet of each of these characters to the children. And as I tell the story, the character will come and enact it. or the character will come and do the puppet play of that. So many different ways in which you can use puppet plays. Let's see the next slide. Let's see the other strategy. Car. The name of the strategy is called car. Car means cut, arrange, rearrange. So, whatever story I said just now, I can make it into story cards. And you get these cards very easily on Google. You can even buy these ready made cards or create a sheet out of them. The children cut the cards. It's a cutting activity. So, you need a worksheet for that. You cut, then they place it in any order and they tell a story. So, which means either I can use a story which they have already heard, or I give them completely new pictures. They cut out the pictures, they put them in any order, and they tell the story in that order. So, every child will have their own unique story. And then they can draw about their story, or you can take it further. Car is an excellent strategy for older kids also, because it involves so many learning skills. Let's go to the next learning strategy where stories are concerned. Housey. Now, housey is a wonderful activity. For example, this Dadi story which I told you, I can make a housey card in which I can put a tiger, a bear, a Dadi, a water drum, a daughter, a jungle. I can put all these pictures. And as I am telling the story, if the picture in their housey card came during my story, they put a tick on it. So whoever gets the first housey card completely completed is going to say, "Yay, my card was correct." Usually for younger children, we give them all the same cards so that everybody feels like, oh, I finished it. For older children, we try to put other pictures also, because older children now have that thing in them that it's okay if I didn't get all the pictures and somebody else got. So the whole idea of this is that while listening to the story, they are also doing another task. So you are actually building in them multitasking skills. Let's go to the next story strategy, thinking hats. So you can start with one hat and then increase the number of hats. I also do this with claps, that every time a new animal comes in the story, you will clap once. Every time there is a song in the story, you will clap twice. So you can start by making them understand simple with claps and then move on to the hat. So now the children have three colored hats with them, red, green, and blue. Every time there is an emotion in the story, they all put on the red hat. Every time we ask them to, what do you think will happen next? They put on the green hat. And every time there is a danger in the story, there is a worry in the story, they put on their blue hats. Again, this helps children do two tasks together: listening to the story, understanding the instruction, and doing what the instruction said. So it builds memory, it builds focus, it builds thinking skills and multitasking. Let's go to the next slide. We all talk about STEM education and STEAM education, but we rarely use it during storytelling. Now, for example, show the picture of the page to the child, to the children, and before turning the page, ask them, what do you think will happen next? Because science is all about estimating. So make them think, what do you think will happen next? Let's see the next slide. How about also making them experience or visualize sounds and smells in a picture? Now that's called thinking with STEAM. So in the picture in front of you, ask the children, what do you think the sounds would be in this picture? If you were there in this room, what sounds would you be hearing? So children will say children talking, music playing. See? And what are the smells you would be able to have? There's cake, so there would be smell of cake. I would be able to smell the sandwiches. So now you are making them think with their senses. Let's go to the next slide. Talk in STEAM. One thing that I feel teachers today are not able to do is to use descriptive words. Everything is awesome. You ask them, how's the weather? Awesome. How was your trip? Awesome. How was the food? Awesome. How is your husband? Awesome. You can't have everything awesome. How is the weather? It's hot. How was the food? It's tasty. How was the trip? It was pleasurable. How is your husband? He's dumb. So you cannot use awesome for everything. You have to learn to use descriptive words. Now, my husband is not dumb. Okay. So, in case you thought that I'm talking about my husband, but it's very important that we use descriptive words. For example, look at the words on the screen: speckled, shiny, bumpy, spongy, thorny, jagged, scaly. Each word actually makes you visualize what it would be. It was a very, very bumpy path. Now, in the Dadi story, if I were to say, Dadi walked in the jungle through the bumpy path, she picked up some shiny stones. She saw that many of the leaves were speckled. She was very careful about the jagged branches. So, for older children, you need to use descriptive vocabulary to make the story interesting. Use above, below, between, inside, straight, curved, tiny, huge, thick, thin, edge, side. Twist, sprinkle, rustle, melt, float, sink. All these are words, descriptive words, but we rarely use them in stories. As children get older, ensure that you sprinkle a few of these words in your storytelling. Let's see the next slide. Stories help us with our emotions. Stories help us with our actions. Always help children connect to the characters in the story. For example, the Goldilocks and the Three Bear, the normal storybook which you all use, very important for us when we use such stories to ask the children, how do you think the baby bear felt when the porridge was eaten, his chair was broken, his bed was rumpled? How do you think he felt? This makes them empathize with the character. This makes them start feeling empathy and understanding other people's emotions. So, if you were the baby bear, would you want Goldilocks to do? That is a question. That what would I want Goldilocks to do if I was baby bear? And that will help children understand how to be kinder to others, how to solve problems, and I can solve people's problems. So it's very, very important that when you use these kind of storybooks, don't just end the story by saying, and Goldilocks ran away home. What about the poor bears? How were they feeling? That is very important. Let's go to the next slide. I have changed all the stories. So if you go on the Early Childhood Association website, you will find all these stories which are changed. The three little pigs, the wolf did not blow down their homes. The wolf was actually chasing them to help them understand which are the environmentally friendly materials to use when making a house. Goldilocks and the three magic words. The bear teach Goldilocks the three magic words: thank you, sorry, and please. Hansel and Gretel, there was no witch, no stepmother. It was an old and kind lady who was trying to teach them to brush their teeth after eating something sweet. And in Red Riding and the wolf was actually trying to check Red Riding Hood's basket to see if she was carrying healthy food for her grandmother. Use the changed versions because stories stay with children for life. Let's go to the next slide. And then extend stories. Start a story maybe about a topic, about anything that you are planning to teach, and then extend the story with an activity. Let's see the next slide. So this is my new version of Humpty Dumpty. The old version says Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, all the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty together again. And we are very happy that Humpty Dumpty fell, Humpty Dumpty broke, and nobody can make him well again. And we are very happy, and we sing this song with children, and we expect them to have empathy. Let's use the changed version. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty did not have a fall. He knew how to be careful. He knew how to play. And that is why he's in one piece today. So you're now teaching that if you are careful, you won't fall. Now, there are 4 story cards of this rhyme. Remember the car activity? So you can do it with this also. So they cut the cards of each of the rhymes lines, and then they put it in the sequence. So you're teaching them sequencing. So many ways in which you can extend a rhyme or a story forward. Let's see the next slide. There is a book available with the Early Childhood Association called The Tiger, the Sparrow, and the Bee. And I want you to see what's given at the end of the storybook. Let's see the next slide. It has mind maps. So, because the story involves a tiger, a sparrow, and the bee, there are 3 mind maps given at the end of the storybook. A mind map of a tiger, which means curriculum activities. Now, look at the 9 intelligences, multiple intelligences given. And for each intelligence, it's given for 3 to 5-year-olds what to do, for 6 to 8-year-olds what to do, for 9 to 12-year-olds what to do. So, how to extend the story further? And it's given for all the 3 animals. Let's see the next slide. It's given for bees, tiger, and the next slide for the sparrow. And I wrote this book because this is the first time in the history of the earth that an animal, a bird, and an insect are all on the verge of extinction. The tiger is on the verge of extinction, the sparrow is on the verge of extinction, and so is the bee. One is an animal, one is a bird, and one is an insect. We humans have been so bad that one of each of the species is on the brink of extinction. Let's see the next slide. There are these ready-made games available on Amazon. Actually, Amazon should appoint me as one of their influencers, because I know Amazon in and out and what kind of things are available there which can be used in the classroom, and they are not very expensive. Both these games which I am showing you are just for 300 or 400 rupees. The first one is called Rolling Tales, and it's a dice game, and each child gets a dice, and as they roll the dice there is a picture. So they start a story. So if I get a bicycle, I start a story saying I had a red color bicycle. Then the other child rolls the dice, and maybe it we get a boy, and my best friend Yash borrowed it. So as we keep rolling the dice, you have to keep adding to the story. In the second one is for older children, where they play it by themselves. By each character they get on the dice, they have to write about it in one single line and keep making their own stories. So see, this is called story extensions. Let's go to the next slide. Stories can be used to teach children so many sensitive issues. You know, in my work at Podar, we were the first ones to start the good touch, bad touch stories for children. So if you'll go on YouTube, you will see that we got these Muppets to make up a whole story on good touch, bad touch. When sensitive topics are done through stories, children understand it. Say, for example, you have a child in your class who hits everybody. Sit with a group of children and tell them a story about a character who used to hit and then how the character changed without naming the child. So you can make a story about adjusting to school or adjusting to a new baby or adjusting to a health issue. You can create awareness about so many issues for children, and you can help them teach about good behavior all through stories. Let's see the next slide. These are all the stories that I have written for various things. So, for example, during Corona, I changed 3 stories: The New Lion and the Mouse, where the mouse teaches the lion about Corona safety. So, all these are available free of cost on the Early Childhood Association website. And in this story, then the lion wanted to eat the mouse. The mouse got so smart and said, "Mask nahi pehna hai, haath dho ke aao," everything to teach about Corona safety. Then Goldilocks and the 3 COVID smart bears, where the bears taught Goldilocks COVID safety. And then the 3 billy goats gruff find out why the troll is angry. The troll was angry with the goats because they were not following COVID guidelines. Now look at the books in the center. These are called logic stories. For example, if you see the title, it says, "No, I'm not an elephant." So on every page of the book, there is an animal and there is a question: Are you an elephant? And say the picture is of a rhinoceros. So the rhinoceros says, "No, I'm not an elephant because I have a horn on my face and not a trunk." This teaches children logic, that yes and no is very easy to give, but yes and no with an answer to support it develops thinking skills in children. So when we expose children to such storybooks, it is helping them in their learning and development. And look at the last column. You see 2 storybooks there, on a zebra and on a giraffe. Both these storybooks talk about different parts of an animal and why they are important for that animal. They both teach that we should not be killing animals for their body parts. And they both teach that each one of us look different, but each of one of us is unique and beautiful. So through stories, different stories, see the amount of things that can be taught. Let's go to the next slide. The Secret Touch. Remember, I spoke about good touch, bad touch? So there is a book called Secret Touch, which through a story of a bad thing that happened to a child and how the child was able to overcome it. In the middle is a storybook, Why Do Words and Numbers Confuse Jay and Sashi? It's about dyslexia and dyscalculia. It's for teachers to understand through a story form what it means. It's for children to understand why these children are different. And the last 2 books are on coding, stories. There is a story about coding. So, any topic in the world can be taught through a story. And the father of the story pedagogy, I was influenced greatly by Gijubhai Badheka. Let's go to the next slide. Now, what I want you to do, because we've come to the end of our workshop, but after every workshop that you attend, play this game. It's called rock, paper, scissors. Rock means, what was that important thing in this workshop that you feel, I heard it for the first time and I need to read more about it? Write it down. What was the paper of this workshop that, oh my God, this point I have to write down about it? Oh, this point is so lovely, I want to write down. Oh, this point I want to do it in the classroom. Which were the points like that? And scissors. After listening to this workshop, do you agree that some things need to be removed from our classrooms, like changing our stories or changing our rhymes? So, what were your rock, paper, scissors? Very important. It's not a submission. We don't always do things to get something. It's a part of your own self reflection as a learner. Do that And I'm sure you will be able to take the story pedagogy in your classrooms, whatever age group you teach, because stories are a full brain workout. And tell me in the chat box, did you get a full brain workout today? Thank you so much.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Swati. It was a wonderful session, full brain workout, and that too in the one of the most engaging manner. So it was very, very engaging, highly informative, and my chat section right now it's just bursting with so many comments that I'm getting. A lot of appreciation. Everybody is appreciating this session. They have found the session very insightful, interesting. And we have people joining the webinar from Kashmir, from Chandigarh, Panchkula, from South, from northern part of India, from eastern part of India, from tier one town, from tier two cities. And all of them are saying that it was a very interesting session, commendable session, and very engaging. So, a lot of descriptive words of appreciation are getting poured into the chat section. Now, but I've also received a lot of questions here, ma'am. So, as always, I'll pass on three questions out of a list of questions that I've got. Can I start with the questions here, Dr.
Oh,
Swati?
yes, please. Yes,
So,
please.
there's a question from a teacher called, so it's an anonymous attendee. I don't know. I mean, you don't have to be scared to ask a question in this webinar. So the anonymous attendee has a question that how can we be confident? Wait, because I keep on receiving the messages, so my chat section goes up, like from where I'm reading the questions. Yeah, so
I
this
have tried
anonymous,
to answer two or three in the Q&A section.
yeah. So this question from the anonymous attendee was that they're afraid of doing voice modulation in front of the kids. So how do they overcome that fear?
Sit in front of a mirror and first do your own practice. And the thing that we are most afraid of is how will I look? And you have to forget about how you look when you are telling a story. So for example, I've just removed my specs, and if I want to be angry, I will show anger like or if I'm upset, I'll do "Ooh." So you don't have to worry about how you are looking. The main problem with us is we are so conscious about how we are looking that we forget that the face connects most to the opposite person, to the child. And when you make these faces, the child feels that, okay, I am part of that story. And they're not going to judge you for what your face is doing at that moment. So just remove all your, how will I look? How will I sound? Just go into it.
So now the another question is, can I use story-based pedagogy for teaching subjects like science, math, social science, even in higher grades?
That is the whole point. When I was doing my B.Ed in English, I was given the poem Lochinvar, which was, I think, in the ninth grade. And I did that whole poem through puppets. And I showed them the poem first through a puppet show. After that, I gave them a task that look into the kind of clothes that were worn during the period of Lochinvar. What kind of language were they using? And now remember the lines of the poem, and y'all put up a puppet show. And it was the most engaging class. They remembered the poem without actually sitting to rote learn it. They got more hands on. They got more, attached to the poem because of the way it was done. You can do physics through stories, you can do mathematics through stories. Whatever you want to teach becomes a character, and that character speaks to the child. So it is very, very important. Like, for example, if you will read Divaswapna, uh, Gijubhai Badheka did stories for geography, for mathematics. Please read Divaswapna. Please download it. It's available as a PDF, free PDF on Google. Just type Divaswapna, and it is available in multiple languages. and you will get Gijubhai Badheka's ideas of how to use stories.
And this is the last question. Uh, so one of the teachers has asked that for a child as young as 3 years old, how would you engage or involve them in a story when their attention span is so little?
Oh, I disagree with this question, because have you seen these 3-year-olds with a mobile phone? They are engaged for hours. Why so? It's because whatever they are watching on the mobile phone has illustrations, has music, and has sounds. And that's why they are engaged and hooked to mobile phones. For 3-year-olds, when you are telling them a story, you need to have rapid changes in your voice, movements, etc. So when you choose relevant stories, as I said, if you're going to make it boring, for example, I heard a teacher's story through a child. The child comes home and tells the story. Goldilocks was a little girl. Sit straight, Yash. And then she went into the jungle. What are you doing, Samiksha? And then she met the bears. So, after listening to this, I realized that in the classroom, while telling the story, the teacher went like this: Goldilocks was a little girl. Yash, please sit down. Yash, no standing up during story time. Goldilocks went into the jungle and she saw a house. What are you doing, Samiksha? I'm trying to tell a story here. If this is how you're going to tell a story, then children are going to lose complete attention. If you are having a problem with children standing or doing anything in the classroom, ignore them. Ignore them. The more you will divert other children's attention towards them, they will lose the concentration and focus in your story. And your story needs to be, the way of storytelling needs to be so engaging that children want to hear what's going to happen. And do you know what happened then? That's how to get back their attention. Whenever you see it wavering, and then, do you know what happened? And they will get your attention, and now you are going deeper into the story. So it's very, very important to understand, if you really care about the storytelling, you will be able to hook anyone's attention anywhere.
Thank you so much, Dr. Swati. The other two questions that were asked frequently, all of you will get the certificate of attendance. It will be emailed to you. And in the email, you'll also get a link to this webinar session. So you will have complete access to what has been discussed in this session, including the Dadima story. Um, and I'm also very thrilled to announce this, that the New Age Humpty Dumpty poem, which Dr. Swati has recomposed, has rewritten. You'll find that poem in the Burlington Rhymes book, in the Burlington kit that we are going to release very soon. But I thank all of you to join this session and make it so interactive. It's your love that keeps us going. And thank you so much, Dr. Swati. It has been wonderful here to have you for the session, the fourth Saturday of this month. And in the same way, we are going to meet up with all of you and with Dr. Swati in the fourth Saturday of the next month. That is July.
Thank you
Till
so
then,
much. 2,200 people were part of this workshop, and I'm so happy. That means story pedagogy will reach their classrooms.
yeah, yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye.